Hey, welcome to this new series that I'm starting. It is tentatively called, A Leetcode a Day Keeps the Doctors Away. So, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I really appreciate you being here. What we're going to be doing in this series is we are going to be going through each Leetcode problem one by one. As of now, it looks like there are 2,338 Leetcode problems. It is my dream to go through all of these, but realistically, I don't know how far I'm gonna go to get to with this series. And we'll also see what the feedback of this series is. So if it's good, then maybe I'll continue. It'll be good practice for me, and I'm sure it'll be good practice for all you guys here. So welcome. My name is Justin Kim. To be honest, I haven't uploaded a video in about 2 years. So sorry about that to my subscribers. I had a lot of things going on in my life. One thing that happened was I moved halfway across the United States. I'm in Texas now. Number two, I had a baby. He's a 14-month-old baby now. And number three, I got a new job. So now I am a front-end engineer at Amazon. So let's start on with this series. This series, we will be using TypeScript instead of JavaScript, as I usually do. The reason why I decided to use TypeScript is that I really believe that TypeScript has become an industry standard across the JavaScript ecosystem. So if you want a job, if you have a job in JavaScript, you're most likely using TypeScript. So this will be a good practice for both you and me to refine our skills as TypeScript developers. So the question that we are starting out today is two-sum. If you guys haven't already, please go to leetcode.com, sign in if you have an account. Otherwise, create an account. There is a free tier that will give you access to all questions, I believe, but for sure this one. And go to the first question, which is two-sum. All right, so how this series is gonna work is we're gonna read the question together, and then I want you guys to pause the video and try to solve this on your own. I really believe that practice and you will get the most out of this video if you at least attempt to solve the problem first and then come back to this video and see how I solve it. I will solve it in multiple ways. Ideally, the next solution that I show you will be better than the first one. So let's get started. Let's read the question. Two-sum, given an array of integers, nums, and an integer target, return indices of the two numbers such that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So for example, here are the two arguments. The array 2, 7, 11, 15, and the target is 9. So which of these two numbers add up to 9? It is obviously 2 and 7. So our output should be the indices of these numbers here, which is 0, index 0, and index 1. The output could also be 1, 0, I believe, because it says you can return the answer in any order. Here's the second question. 3, 2, 4, target 6. So what is it? 2 plus 4 is 6, so it should be 1 and 2, or 2, 1. And then 3, 3, target is 6. Output is 0, 1. This is kind of crucial here. It says here, you may not use the same element twice. What that means is you can't use the same index twice. So what I mean by that is technically index 0 plus index 0, which is 3 plus 3, will also give you 6. However, we cannot use the same element twice, meaning the same index twice. So hopefully you guys understood all this question, what you are trying to do. And also, we could also assume that there will always be one solution. Sometimes, what if this was like 2, 3? Then you can never get 6, but we can assume that that will never happen. And if you guys are able to solve this, try to do this follow-up too before you watch my video. Can you come up with an algorithm that is less than O(n) squared times complexity? So this is the big O notation. I'm sure most of you guys should be familiar with the big O notation. If you guys aren't, there's a lot of good resources out there on the internet. But try to solve this with an algorithm that is less than O(n) squared. I will be showing you guys at the end of how I solve this using O to the n. But first, don't worry about all of that. Just try to solve it first. That should always be our primary goal. Solve the question, even if it's brute force. and then try to refine your answer afterwards. All right, so I'm assuming that you guys have solved this question or at least attempted it. If you haven't, please pause right now and come back later. But I'm gonna assume that you guys have at least attempted it. I have Code Sandbox here open to the right of me. I'm gonna copy the template and paste it over here. All right, so my first method will be brute force. We're gonna iterate through every single element twice and see which of the two adds up, and we will give that answer. So this will be an O(n) squared solution. Let me write that here, N2 solution. So what I am going to do is I'm gonna iterate through our nums array. So for let I is 0, I is less than nums.length, I plus plus, and then I'm gonna iterate again. Let me write it first and I will explain. J will start out as I plus 1. J will go to nums.length and J plus plus. So let me kind of explain what's going on here. Let's look at this example right here. I will start out as 2 or 0, index 0, and J will start out here. And then as I remains here, J will go to 7, and then J will go to 11, and J will go to 15. If no match is found, then I will go to here, and J will go to the next one. And then J will go here and so on. So J will always be to the right of I, and I will always be to the left of J, meaning I should never technically be at the last index, right? Because I has to always be to the left of J. So what that means is if we want to be really proper, we shouldn't let I go to the end of the array. Instead, we should go to the 1 minus 1, meaning I will stop here. So I will be here, J will be here, and they will compare, and hopefully that will give the target, because that's an assumption that we could take. All right, so now that we do this, let's first grab the values at each index. So const num A is going to be nums at I, and const num B is going to be nums at J. And then we want to see if these two numbers add up to our target. So if num A is num plus num B is equal to, what is it, target, then we know we have the answer. So let's just return I comma J. Remember, we have to return the index of the solution, not the actual value. So we could do J comma I here too, it doesn't matter, whatever. So this should technically be the solution, but TypeScript is right now complaining, saying that the function lacks ending return statement and return type does not include undefined. The reason why it's complaining is, for example, let's assume that we never hit this. We never got to a scenario where num A plus num B is equal to target. Then we'll be out here. And we know that this will never happen because there will always be exactly one solution as long as this is well defined. But TypeScript doesn't know that. So just to appease TypeScript, let's just do this. Return 0, 1. And we will just make a note. We will never get here. So let's get this up, paste it over here, and see if the test solution works. The test code, I mean. All right, so it is accepted, and if we click submit, there we go. So we did it in the brute force O(n) squared method, which took us 170 milliseconds. Now let's reset this solution, and I'm just gonna comment this one out, and let's try to do this in the O(n) solution that is less than O(n) squared. So what I'm gonna do is grab this solution here, and then I'm gonna try to do this in an O(n) solution. So let's think about how we're gonna do that. So what I am thinking about is I'm gonna make an object. So for example, what my object will look like is this. I know that the two numbers has to add up to target. So I'm gonna make an object where the keys are the actual numbers, and because we have to return the index of the matching numbers, the index of it to as an output, I also need to keep track of our indices. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make an object where the key is the value of the number, and the value of the number is going to be the index of the number. So that's super confusing. So let me give you guys an example of what this will look like for this array here. So for this array, I'm gonna make an object where the value 2, look at the first one, that has an index of 0, and then 7 has an index of 1, 11 has an index of 2, 15 has an index of 3. So hopefully this makes sense. Now let's start. I'm gonna first instantiate this object as an empty object. So let's do const, what should we call this? Let's just call it a map because it's technically a map of some sort. And let's type this because we're in TypeScript. So the key will be a number, and also the value will also be a number, but we are gonna start it out as an empty object. And then we're gonna iterate through all the array in the nums array. Let I is 0, I is less than nums.length, I plus plus. And what we are going to do is we are going to first, we gotta start populating these, right? Right now it's empty. We have to start populating it. So let's do that. We're gonna say map, and what was it? The value. What is the value of this? Let me define that first. So const number of this is going to be nums at I. So map at num is gonna be the index. So we have put our first key value pair to this map. And then let's also, in this same for loop iteration, also assume that this has already been populated and say if the difference of num and the target exists as a key here, then we know we have the pair. So for example, let me get the difference right now first. Const difference is gonna be target minus num. So for this 2 example, the difference is gonna be 9 minus 2, which is 7. So if 7 exists, then whatever the value is at 7, which is the index, that will give us the second part of our answer. First part being the actual I that we're in right now. Hopefully that makes sense. So the way that we are gonna check for that is do this. If the map has the key diff, then do something. There is technically something wrong about the way that I'm doing this, but let me just do it right now. So if this difference exists, then we know that the second index of our solution is the result of map diff. And then we're just gonna return our current index and then our second index. Hopefully that makes sense. Now there are 2 important things here. The first thing is, should we be setting the key first or should we be doing this check first? And I'm gonna say we should be doing this check first before we set the actual key value pairs. The reason is, do you remember this last question here? Imagine this one. We initially have an empty object, a map, I mean, and then imagine if we set the key first. So what we're gonna do is map is gonna become 3, which is the value, will have an index of 0, right? So we set it on this line right here. And then we're checking. If the difference, what's the difference between 6 and 3? It's also 3, right? So if the difference exists, we're gonna return the pair. But if we set it first, it's gonna think that what we have just set is the matching pair. So what this is gonna return is 0, 0. So because we want to avoid this situation, we want to do the comparison first and then set it afterwards. So let's go through this iteration first. So we're gonna first say, does the difference exist? So right now the map is empty, and we're gonna say, what is the difference between 6 and 3? That's 3. Does 3 exist here as a key? No. So we skip this whole if condition, and then on line 31, map becomes 3 at 0. And then we go to the next index, which is index 1, and we say, what is the difference between this 3 and this 6? That is also 3. Does the key 3 exist here? And yes, it does. So what it's going to give us is it's going to give us our current I, which was 1, and then our second index, which was 0 here. Hopefully that makes sense. There is something wrong with this solution though, is this condition here. Map at diff. This value, think about this question here. Think about what this value is for when I is 1. So when I is 1, I is here, and our map currently looks like this. The difference is 3, so we are doing what is map at 3, and that is 0. So what is the condition of if 0? What is if 0? Because 0 is a falsy value, this will return false, even though we want it to return true. So this is not a proper way to compare to see if the value exists. Rather, what we should be doing is if diff, if the key diff in map. If the key diff is in map, then we do this. That way we will avoid this falsy value type of scenario happening. So this solution should work. Again, we're getting a TypeScript error. Just to appease TypeScript, let's just do never will hit here, return 0, 1. So let's get this, paste it over here, and see if it works. Yep, it works. This is O to the n because we just have one for loop here that's iterating through our nums array. And let's see if it goes through all the test cases by submitting. All right, so we got 101 milliseconds. It is a success. That's good. 76%, so it's not so good right now. And there is one more way to speed this up, and that is instead of using objects, ES6 introduced a new type called a map, a capital M map, and that's what we should use to speed this up a little bit more. So let's try that right now. Yep, and by the way, I just paused. I went to the MDN docs about the ES6 maps. Here it is. And these are some of the methods that we're going to be using. So map.set, which is setting a new key to the map. And also, where is it? We are going to be using has. So that is checking to see if the key exists in the map that we created. So let's first start by typing our new map. It's going to be capital M map. It's going to take in a generic. The first argument of this generic is going to be the type of the key. In our case, it is a value, which is the number. And the value of it is also going to be a number because it's going to take in the index. So we're just going to instantiate it like so. And then let's see, what else do we have to do? Instead of saying if diff in map, we should use has in this scenario. If map has the diff, then do something. Otherwise, let's see. Instead of doing this, we do get. Get the value at the diff key. And what else? When we are setting it, instead of setting it the object way, we are going to set it as map.set num, and the value is going to be I. So let's erase that. And again, we will never hit here, but whatever. Let's run the code to see if it works. There we go. Submit. Hopefully it'll be faster this time. Yep, 86 seconds, which is 87.18%. It gets kind of fun to try to beat like this record. Last time, what did I get? Yeah, I got 62 somehow. So I don't know. I didn't use some of these variables that I took out. Like for example, this one, I just put it here right away. You can play around with it, but honestly, it's not a big deal. This is good enough in my opinion. And this was the first question of Leetcode 2 sums. Please, if you like this content, subscribe, like this video. That will let me know that you guys like this, and I will make more of these Leetcode videos. And it's not just the Leetcode videos that I'm gonna be making. I have a lot of other series that I've been really wanting to do. So hopefully I will have the time this time to get to those series. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching this video, and have a good day.